Alright, welcome back to Miss Emery's classroom. Today we are going to do vowel teams. So some of these I will have the examples on the cards, and other ones I will have on my paper here. So our first vowel team is going to be vowel teams that spell long A. So for example, A and I. So we have aid, pain, vein, aim, paint, waste, bail, quail, and wait. All of those are spelled with A and I. So, for example, grab my dry erase sheet here. These vowel teams right here make up the sound A. So what I mean is, long A says its name. So let's write that on our little paper here. Long A says its name. Alright, so now that we know that long A says its name, so let's go back to our cards here for long A. So I'm going to go back over here. And we're going to find our long A. So one example of a word with long A is cake. And as I mentioned previously, our vowel team A and I make the long A sound. So on the bottom of that card was rain. The A and the I make the same sound as the A in cake. So, knowing that, we are now going to move on to the next vowel team that makes the long A sound. So this would be A and Y. So our examples are bay, pray, bray, say, clay, stay, day, stray, gray, sway, hay, tray, lay, way, pay, yay, and play. So referring back to our card here for the long A, we're going to use the example cake this time. Or not cake, table. So A here makes its own little noise. It's solo. But on this card we also have the vowel team A and Y. So play makes the same sound as table. And that's because once A is combined with the Y, it says its name. And our next vowel team here is going to be E and A. So these are going to be words like great, break, stake, wear, bear, pair, tear, and swear. So the E and A work together. So, for example, over here, I believe on our long E card, the E makes the A say its name, and so in the word team. But see, team, E says its name instead of A. But it is still a vowel team together. Our next one that says the A, that spelled the long A, are the E-I-H words. So, I'm going to write this out because this one is going to be a little tricky. So, for example, we have 8, weight, weigh, freight, sleigh, hay, neigh, and AT. So the EIGH combo makes the long A sound, as in 8. And our next vowel team okay, we're going to do R-controlled vowels. So R-controlled vowels are ones where R is in charge. So for example, this one is going to be the AR. So we have arc, cart, march, arch, and as you can hear, arch, the R sounds like it's the beginning letter rather than the second letter or the third letter. So for example, carve, you don't hear the A, the R makes the sound. Same with the word car. Same with the word barn, farm, and start. They all make the R sound. Now, the next one that is an R-controlled vowel are the ones that have O and R. For example, born. You hear that? Orn, born. Let's see, thorn. Torn. Let's see, corn. North. See how the O or the R makes the or? And then the next one is going to be the E and R. So these are words like clerk, stern, term, verb, nerve, and perch. R controls the E and makes the E sound like er. The next one is I and R. So these are going to be ones like smirk, bird, third, first, and stir. And our last one for this is R-U-R. So we have words like burn, spur, curb, surf, curve, and fur. And those are R-controlled vowels. Alright, so our next one is vowel teams that spell long E. So these are going to be ones that have double E for the first one. So, what I mean is, the E will make it say its name. So, we have beep, and so these are going to spell the long E. So instead of using E by itself, these ones are going to have two E's to begin with. So we've got need, creek, screen, and sheep. So these spell long E. Now, for example, if I took the E out of sheep, so if I took one E out, we would be left with shep, shep. And that's not right because it makes the short E sound. So the second E makes the first one say its name. And our next vowel teams that spell long E are E and A. So, for example, beam, team, like I said last time, the E is kind of silent in this one. Reach, teach, and we're going to do please. So the E kind of makes the A silent, but in the same respect, the A makes the E say its name. E. And our next one is E and Y. So these are going to be things like donkey, turkey, honey, valley, and pulley. So the Y and the E team up to make the E sound. And our next vowel team that makes the long E sound is going to be I and E. So I'm going to write I-E. And these are going to be words like brief, And this is where the I before E comes in. I typically goes before E. So we have another one like tier, thief, yep, Miss Emery spelled that wrong. See, I just said I before E and put E before I. It's not how it's spelled. And field. So now that I've corrected my mistake, the IE makes the E sound. Now, our next vowel teams are going to be ones that spell long I. For example, ice cream. Let's see. Bike, dime, and tie. So these are going to be long I sounds. So our first ones that spell long I are going to be I-G-H, like bright, flight, might, and light. And our next vowel team combo that makes the long I is I-E. So as I read on our long I card, tie, T-I-E is on there. So we're going to use that one. We also have fi, lie, and untie. And those make the long I sound. Our next one is vowel teams that spell long O. So these are going to be words like boat, coat, load, oath, coax, and loaf, as in a loaf of bread. And our next ones that make the long O sound are O-W. So these are going to be words like blow, as in blow a bubble, flow, as in the water flows, slow, as in we must slowly walk across the road, and snow, as in the snow is cold. And our next vowel team that does the OE, or that makes the long O, is OE. So these are things like toe, doe, which is a type of deer, woe, as in, oh, woe is me, and foe, as in, you're my enemy. And our last one, which is going to be more difficult, is the O-U-G-H. That makes the long O. So we have dough, as in the dough for bread. Though, as in though this happened, and although this happened. And they make the long O sound. And our next one is going to be the long U. And so these ones, like I said, as that was on a card, we had glue. And that's because UE makes the U sound. So we're going to do this one differently. So, U and E. So that's glue, do, through. Oh, my bad. Apologize, I read wrong. Hue, rue, sue, and true. So the U and the E make the long U sound. And so our next one is the EW, which is where Miss Emery got confused and accidentally wrote through for the wrong one. So we're going to use through because that was the one I misread. Flew, grew, and stew. And another one is chew. So EW makes the long U sound. And now we're going to do our magic E words. So magic E just means E is silent. For example, we have bake, which the E is obviously silent. Ate, bail, let's see, chime, lime. So as you hear, the silent E makes the other vowel say its name. So the E makes A say its name, and the E makes the I say its name. So let's do some other ones where E makes a letter say its name. So we have code. E makes O say the name. We have, let's see, broke, as in I broke the vase. So E makes the previous vowel say its name because the E is silent. It's quiet. it just sits there and tells the other vowel to say its name. So, we're going to do long E words with a silent E. And I'll show you what I mean. So we have Eve, here, scene, theme. So as you can tell, the last E tells the E in the middle, hey buddy, you need to say your name. And our long U. So this is where E tells U to say its name. So we have, of course, mule. E is like, hey buddy, you gotta say you. Dude. That one's a very common one. E is like, alright dude, say your name. You. Then we have fluke. E is like, alright, say your name. We've got tube. And he's like, alright, cool. We're going to be a tube of toothpaste. Now, if we take the E away, it becomes tub. Since E is no longer there, it's no longer telling you to say its name. So the U is going to go to a short U and be tub. Now, if we put the little magic E back, it now becomes tube again. And with that being said, thank you for coming to the phonics lesson.